Walmart plans to shut down 269 stores.
The chief executives of Walmart and Target have privately warned President Trump of empty shelves in the coming weeks.
We're seeing new indications from big box stores to malls.
All important groceries will be affected as well.
Things have officially spun out of our hands because America's biggest cities just got hit by a five-punch economic combo all at once. And no, it's not crime, inflation, or housing this time. It's something worse. Retail survival is officially dead, killed off by tariffs, shutdowns, and a president who claimed he'd bring jobs back to America. Now you can't afford a $4 t-shirt or a $1 toothbrush, not because of poor spending, but because your entire neighborhood just got priced out of existence. Trump's America First plan slapped patriotic taxes on everything from school supplies to groceries. And guess who's paying? Not the CEOs or senators, instead single moms, students, and working families who lost the last place they could afford to breathe. And honestly, when the dollar store itself can't afford to exist, what does that say about how little value this country places on the people who need it most? Because in the first place, the retail giant that pulled the plug and sent shockwaves through urban America was none other than Walmart. In May 2025, a confidential leak from Walmart's executive board stunned the retail industry. The company is preparing to close 11 of its major urban stores by August. These aren't random pullouts. We're talking about deeply populated hubs like Cleveland, St. Louis, Baltimore, and Detroit, where Walmart is often the last affordable shopping option left. The reason behind this retreat? A 200% tariff on Chinese textiles proposed by the Trump administration that has sent supply chain costs skyrocketing overnight. According to internal projections, Walmart's most basic apparel items, like its signature $4 t-shirts, would need to be repriced at nearly $9 just to break even. Now you tell me, how can the everyday American afford a shirt when the government just tripled its price overnight? And the most painful aspect is this isn't just about t-shirts. It's about a system collapsing on itself. Walmart has built its empire on one unshakable promise: low-cost goods delivered efficiently to the masses. But 73% of its apparel imports come from China, and this new tariff makes that business model financially unsustainable. Their internal report, dated May 12th, reveals the company is now actively preparing a strategic rollback from high-risk tariff zones, with a special focus on Democrat-run urban centers where labor costs are already higher and profit margins are razor thin. And those aren't just business terms. They translate directly to real people losing real jobs. But the next thing is even more damning, because those jobs are already being cut in silence. Managers across the targeted cities have begun distributing 60-day WARN notices, the legal prerequisite for mass layoffs. Store employees, many of them single parents, recent immigrants, and hourly workers with no union protections, are being told to prepare for shutdowns. Early estimates suggest over 26,000 jobs will vanish before the end of Q3. These are not tech layoffs or executive cuts. These are frontline, paycheck-to-paycheck families who will be left without income, health coverage, or even basic neighborhood grocery access. In cities like Birmingham and Milwaukee, where Walmart fills the gap left by shuttered mom and pop shops, this isn't just a corporate exit, it's a local disaster. If the place you get groceries and the place you work both disappear in the same week, what's left? The story behind the scenes is even more politically charged. Walmart executives reportedly requested a phased exemption from the tariff rollout, warning that such a sudden economic shock would devastate urban communities. But those efforts were crushed in public when Trump, speaking at a May rally in Columbus, declared, "Cheap China goods are dead in my America. We'll make it here or not at all." The message was clear: no exceptions, no delays. In the weeks following that speech, Walmart's stock dropped nearly 8%, and internal strategy memos shifted from containment to exit planning. But the administration isn't slowing down, it's doubling down, and Walmart is just the first to fall. Across working-class neighborhoods, the consequences are starting to compound. Shuttered Walmart stores mean more than empty buildings. They mean food deserts, medicine shortages, and 40-minute drives to the next affordable store. And for many families, there won't be a next affordable store. The closures are also triggering ripple effects. Local vendors, freight workers, cleaning staff, and logistics teams tied to these urban Walmarts are seeing contracts terminated without warning. The damage isn't just financial, it's social, structural, structural and permanent. But if you think Walmart's retreat was the biggest blow to working class neighborhoods, wait until you hear what happened with Target. In June 2025, Target Corporation released a Q2 filing that sent ripples through Wall Street and panic through America's cities. The company confirmed it will shut down 16 major urban stores by the end of the year, citing an economic strain tied directly to Trump's steel import tariffs. While much of the media focused on slogans and partisan culture wars, the real issue hiding beneath the headlines is material, shelving, fixtures, store infrastructure. All of it now required to be made with 100% American steel by 2026. The cost of compliance? According to Target's internal forecasts, it would inflate expansion and remodeling budgets by over 32%. What's the point of patriotic steel if the result is empty storefronts and mass layoffs? Target's model depends heavily on rapid expansion, stylish store revamps, and competitive urban placement. Cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Seattle were each slated for multi-million-dollar renovations intended to make urban locations more efficient and profitable. But a leaked memo acquired by CNBC confirmed the company had to cancel over $300 million in planned upgrades after running the numbers on steel costs alone. These aren't cosmetic cuts. They represent entire stores now left functionally outdated, inefficient, and, in the company's own words, no longer viable. Without the upgrades, traffic slows. Without traffic, the store bleeds. But the losses don't stop at canceled plans, and they're translating directly into lives upended. By early 2026, Target projects it will phase out 18,500 jobs as a direct result of these closures. And not just retail clerks. Warehouse workers, logistics drivers, maintenance crews, and security personnel are all being absorbed by the exit strategy. Target's e-commerce pivot, while aggressive, is not fast enough to capture or retrain displaced labor. As stores close, communities lose not just jobs, but access to affordable essentials. Groceries, school supplies, baby care. In many of these cities, especially in lower income zones, Target is the last remaining mid-range retailer after Walmart's recent exit. But the real shock isn't that Trump's policies are hurting corporations, it's how casually they're hurting workers. Outside several closing stores, including in Minneapolis and Atlanta, MAGA-aligned protesters have gathered, waving signs that read, "Go woke, go broke." The rallies are more performance than policy, a cultural jab at Target's past support for LGBTQ+ causes and progressive branding. But inside the stores, the atmosphere is anything but theatrical. Mothers working part-time for health benefits, students juggling jobs and tuition, and middle-aged staff with 10+ years of service are all being walked out with severance packets and little else. Their crime. Working for a company caught in the crossfire between industrial policy and political theater. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get worse, along came CVS, walking away from communities not just with discounts, but with the only pharmacies some people had left. In June 2025, CVS Health stunned both investors and the general public with a sweeping announcement. It plans to shut down 700 urban pharmacy locations across the United States by early 2026. The reason? A brutal mix of rising costs and policy shock, primarily driven by Trump's new wave of tariffs on Indian pharmaceuticals and packaging materials. For CVS, which sources a large share of its generics and prescription packaging from India, the cost increase was immediate and devastating. In just 3 months, medication prices have jumped 27%, pricing many of their most vulnerable customers out of their prescriptions altogether. What happens when healthcare becomes unaffordable not because of supply, but because of politics? But this isn't just a pricing problem, it's a systemic chokehold on America's most accessible pharmacy network. CVS, with over 9,000 locations nationwide, is often the only local health provider in low-income, underserved neighborhoods. In many of these 700 closing sites, including in cities like Chicago, Detroit, Newark, and Oakland, there are no hospitals nearby. There's no urgent care center. There's only CVS, and when those doors close, access to life-saving medication goes with them. But that's not even the most disturbing part, because the fallout isn't measured in dollars, but in lives. The closures will directly displace over 32,000 workers, including pharmacists, technicians, clerks, and delivery drivers. Many of these employees are unionized, but protection is limited when an entire store is shuttered. Warn notices have already begun landing in employee inboxes notifying them of economic restructuring. And for many of these staff members, especially in major cities with rising housing costs and stagnant wages, this isn't just a job loss. It's a collapse of their last economic safety net. CVS was one of the few employers in healthcare retail still offering benefits for part-time work, and that too is disappearing. If the job that gave you your medicine also pays for your child's asthma inhaler, what do you do when both vanish at once? Behind closed doors, executives at CVS reportedly pushed for compromise before the closures were finalized. Sources inside the company say the board lobbied for tiered tariffs, lower rates for essential medicines, especially generics and chronic condition drugs. But those requests were ignored. Instead, Trump doubled down on his narrative, posting on Truth Social. Yas. We don't need cheap overseas pills, we'll make them here. CVS should learn to compete or close shop. And just like that, a $1 billion urban pharmacy operation was written off as expendable in a broader political agenda. But what kind of country tells its sickest citizens to wait while it figures out how to manufacture aspirin from scratch? The health implications are staggering. Doctors in affected cities are already warning of incoming waves of prescription abandonment, cases where patients stop taking vital medication because access becomes inconvenient or unaffordable. For conditions like diabetes, hypertension, and mental health disorders, even a few weeks without medication can lead to irreversible health damage. Add to that the spike in emergency room visits, which burden hospitals already stretched thin, and the true cost of this policy extends far beyond CVS's balance sheet. Then came the hit no one saw coming, Best Buy, the last tech chain standing. On June 10th, 2025, Best Buy's CEO stood at a press conference podium and made an announcement that, until now, no one in the retail tech space dared to say out loud. The company is withdrawing from 12 major US city centers, citing untenable conditions under Trump's emergency sanctions on Chinese semiconductors and consumer electronics. These sanctions, fast-tracked through executive order, were designed to cripple China's tech exports, but they've also wrecked America's biggest electronics retailer. Prices for core inventory, TVs, laptops, smartphones, have jumped between 35% and 50% in just 2 fiscal quarters, leaving stores with aisles full of unmovable stock and customers walking out empty-handed. How does a tech superpower function when it can't afford its own devices? But this isn't just a matter of inflated price tags, it's a matter of strategic suffocation. Best Buy's retail model depends on quick-turn inventory, move the product fast, sell volume, and keep margins tight. But now, even entry-level electronics are priced like luxury goods. A $499 laptop has ballooned to $749, and many stores have reported double-digit declines in foot traffic, especially in lower income zones. Cities like Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Denver, which once represented booming urban tech markets, are now labeled commercial dead weight in the company's internal restructuring documents. But the cost of pulling out isn't measured in profit margins, it's measured in pink slips. By the end of Q4, Best Buy will lay off approximately 21,000 retail staff, including floor managers, warehouse employees, and tech support agents. Unlike office-based roles that can be redistributed or transitioned online, these jobs are location-dependent and non-transferable. There's no remote alternative to stocking shelves or assisting walk-ins. These are real people in real cities, often in tech deserts where access to affordable electronics is already limited, and they're being told to clear out as Best Buy vacates the market. No public hearings, no transition plans, just exit orders and empty parking lots. If technology is supposed to be the great equalizer, why are our poorest cities being cut off from it first? But nothing. Absolutely nothing. Cuts deeper than what happened with Dollar Tree, the store that once sold everything for $1. By June 2025, the writing was no longer on the wall, it was in store windows, on pink slips, and in press releases. Dollar Tree, long considered the final refuge for low-income families, announced it would be shutting down over 500 stores, most of them in urban neighborhoods already struggling with affordability. The trigger, a sweeping new trade policy from the Trump administration, ominously titled the Retail Cleanup Act, which slaps a flat 150% tariff on so-called non-essential Chinese goods. That includes the very products Dollar Tree depends on: cheap food containers, cleaning supplies, school kits, seasonal goods, and more. In other words, the everyday items that millions of Americans rely on to survive. What happens when the only place you can afford to shop vanishes overnight? Executives inside Dollar Tree did not mince words. In a late May stakeholder call, one board member stated bluntly, "We cannot legally sell a $1 item for $3 just to break even. Our entire model collapses under these tariffs." And collapse it has. Store managers were instructed to begin shutdown procedures within 10 days of the announcement, with inventory liquidated, leases terminated, and staff laid off without severance in non-union regions. For families in areas like South Chicago, East Baltimore, and Fresno, this wasn't just a store closing. It was the removal of the last financial buffer between scraping by and total insecurity. But the more dangerous truth is what happens next, because this isn't just retail disruption, it's economic abandonment. The company estimates over 42,000 jobs will be lost in the initial wave of closures. These aren't corporate offices or executive cuts. These are part-time cashiers, shelf stockers, freight workers, and store supervisors, many of whom worked without benefits, making just above minimum wage. For them, Dollar Tree wasn't a stepping stone, it was the only stone. With limited education or job mobility and living paycheck to paycheck, many workers now face immediate housing risk, food insecurity, and debt default. No government transition plan exists to absorb the fallout, and the private sector isn't hiring at a pace fast enough to catch them. But the government's message is even colder. They see this collapse as cleansing. In a Truth Social post just one day after Dollar Tree's mass closure plan went public, Trump wrote, "We're not letting China dump garbage goods into our economy anymore. If you can't compete, step aside." His allies have echoed the sentiment, arguing that these stores flooded the US with low-quality junk and encouraged a culture of disposability. But for the millions of Americans who depended on those items, especially families, seniors on fixed incomes, and undocumented households, it wasn't junk, it was survival. And they're not stepping aside. They're being pushed out of the system entirely. If protecting the economy means eliminating the only affordable option, who's really being protected? Walmart is retreating, Target is bleeding, CVS is closing pharmacies, Best Buy is pulling out, and now Dollar Tree, the very bottom rung of the retail safety ladder, has been kicked out from underneath those who were already hanging on by their fingertips. There are no discount chains left moving into these abandoned neighborhoods, no e-commerce platforms offering free shipping to zip codes where broadband doesn't even work. The exit of Dollar Tree isn't just a business decision, it's a red line being drawn between who can afford to live in modern America and who cannot. But isn't this exactly the kind of inequality we were promised would be fixed, not made worse?